Hey, everybody, welcome to Navel Gazing. My name is Eugene Driscoll of valleyindy.org. Today, my guest is Derby Alderman Rob Hyder, and we're going to be talking about proposed changes to the Derby Charter. Welcome back to the podcast, Alderman Hyder.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate you having me.
My pleasure. Election Day is November 3rd, and in addition to the state and federal races, Derby residents are asking to vote yay or nay on 7 charter change questions. And this podcast, Alderman Hyder and I will go over the proposed changes informally. This is not a prepackaged infomercial. Rather, it's just me, some random guy from Derby, asking the chairman of the Charter Revision Commission questions about charter revision. But before we begin, I want to read a message from my sponsor, valleygivesback.org. I think this information is extremely relevant in terms of COVID-19 and the economic impact it's having on the Valley. While giving back is always in season, now is a great time to plan your gift. Name a Valley nonprofit in your estate plan and create a legacy that tells future generations what mattered to you. With the planned gift, you have the power to impact the Valley forever without affecting your current lifestyle. Your action will inspire others to make a difference in their own way. Remember the Valley. Ask your accountant, financial planner, or attorney about plan giving options. Plan now, give later, impact tomorrow. Learn more at valleygivesback.org. So thank you, valleygivesback.org for your sponsorship. And all right, the video's still going. I am recording. Everything seems good, Rob. I always get a little nervous. The first question I want to ask, and I don't think I ever asked this before, the way this goes to voters, it's on the ballot. I believe it's on the back of the ballot. Can the questions individually pass? Can you like pass one and then 2 might get rejected, or do they all have to pass, or how's that work?
Yeah, absolutely. They're all individual questions. So, we can pass any number of them, and we can pass all of them, or, none of them. So yeah, they're all individual questions.
Okay, I realized like just before you came on, I had never asked that before. Yeah. And I guess just in terms of anybody, I mean, we're recording this on Thursday night. The election day is Tuesday. So if you want to read this stuff for yourself and to watch videos and to read the minutes of everything Alderman Hyder and the Charter Revision Commission did in Derby, it's all on the City of Derby website. And I'll share the screen right now, which will probably make this all just be a total disaster. But there's the City Derby website, right? And here's all election information. If you go to, if you click the home page there, you can go to the meetings, and then there's a calendar. And from there, you can look back and get all the charter revision stuff. If you want to spend 9 hours or so watching videos and researching this, it's there. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe Rob. You can get the information for yourself. Also, what's great about the website is you can look at the ballots. Like I said, everyone's voting for president and Congress and the state races, but then you can do this, and there's your sample ballot. And you turn over the ballot, and there are the questions right there. And in addition, there's explanatory text that we'll go over right now. I'm just realizing it might be a little hard for me to do that. But I guess, Rob, the first thing I wanted to ask is basically a why question. Like in general, why now? Why do this effort right now to change the charter? What's the overall mission?
Before I go any further, I just want to let you know that my internet seems to be a little bit unstable, so it keeps coming in and out. So I may lose you for maybe 10 seconds at a time. So if I go silent, that's why I'll be right back. But
okay, gotcha.
Okay, so to answer your question, why now? I think that's it's a good time because we are not in the midst of a municipal election. So these charter questions obviously pertain to the city of Derby. So for instance, we are talking about having the voters decide whether to have the elected officials go for 4-year terms. So rather than have them decide 4-year terms or not during a municipal election, we're doing that in an even number year. So next year, when we do have the municipal election, if should the voters choose to go for 4 years, then it would be in place going forward. So not while we're in the midst of a municipal election. So I think it's good timing. I think it's also good timing because it's a presidential election. So we're going to have a substantial turnout in comparison to a normal municipal election or statewide election.
Yeah, and hopefully people will know that the charter change questions are on there. I know I mean, given everything that's happening on a daily basis in the world, it's really tough to get basic information out there. So, all right, so let's take a look at question one. I will attempt to share my screen again. And I mean, this one is a long one. It incorporates several sections of the charter, as you can see there. And basically, this is the one from all the discussions you had on the commission level. You're making you're correcting spelling mistakes, correcting some grammatical mistakes. But there's one in there I wanted to ask you about, and it has to do, it's section 28 under powers and duties of BOAT. The proposed change, quote, changes to whom budget requests are submitted. And right now, I guess it goes from departments to BOAT, and this would change it from department heads to the mayor and BOAT. Is that what it is? And why is that change being suggested?
Yeah, and that's actually spelled out more specifically in question number 6. So question number 6 specifies that shall section 28 of the charter be amended to require the mayor to submit an annual budget to the Board of Apportionment and Taxation by March 1st in accordance with the recommendation of the Charter Revision Commission and the Board of Aldermen / Alderwomen. The mayor currently submits his own budget. He does not see the budgets proposed by Parks and Recreation or Public Works or the Board of Education for that matter. So what we are proposing now is that rather than these various commissions and boards submit their budgets directly to the tax board, we're asking them to submit it to the mayor for him to review and for him to maybe make some recommendations, changes before the tax board views it. After all, regardless of who the mayor is, they whether it be fair or unfair, are taking credit for the mill rate in the city of Derby. So if the mill rate goes up, it's typically falls on the mayor's head, even though he does not see the budget. So this is a way of getting the mayor more in line with what's being presented to the tax board prior to the budgets being officially.
So is the goal here accountability? You want the mayor, and I say you, I mean the Charter Revision Commission. Is the idea to get the mayor more accountable in terms of the financial dealings of the city?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, again, I mean, they're taking credit, whether it's good or bad, for the tax increases or steady tax. So this is actually giving the mayor the opportunity to review the budgets before they're submitted to the tax board. So yeah, I think it's something that, it's long overdue. And I think many other cities do this and towns do this as well.
And the idea, my observation has been over the years, sometimes in Derby, I was always confused because sometimes a mayor would come out and sort of have a press conference. I was going to say dog and pony show, but I'm so cynical. They'll have a press conference saying, "Here's my budget," and then the next year that just doesn't happen. And then sometimes there's well, is the mayor going to propose a budget or anything like that? And they're really, the way the charter is right now, the mayor he doesn't have to get involved in the budget at all if he doesn't want to, or she. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, the mayor has his own budget that he submits to the tax board to be.
But just for his department, you mean?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So
just for his department.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So now we're putting the entire city in his hands. So it's, a 40, $60 million operation. So whether he's taking credit, good or bad, I mean, I think it's something that he should have his eyes on, for the first time prior to the tax board.
And I know this can be a dry subject for people. And then people might assume it's just it's a political process, but in terms of the Charter Revision Commission, that was a bipartisan board. Who are some of the people and their affiliations on charter revision who all have endorsed what's going to voters?
Well, the commission was made up of 10 individuals, 5 unaffiliated, 2 Democrats. I forget the exact makeup, but it was 5 unaffiliated, 3 Democrats, and I think 2 Republicans. So they were chosen by the Democratic Town Committee and the Republican Town Committee. They made recommendations to the Board of Aldermen and Alderwomen, and then they were either approved or not approved. And the Aldermen and Alderwomen actually added two members, one being myself and the other one being Alderwoman Kurtica.
And so would you say, I'm sorry, Rob, I interrupted.
So I'm just saying that's where the recommendations came from. They came from the various town committees.
And then the actual questions that made it to the ballot. I mean, basically, the Charter Revision Commission, that bipartisan panel, they want people to vote yes. Is that accurate to say? And the Board of Aldermen, the fact that they put this out here?
Absolutely. And again, it's bipartisan. So we unanimously approved each of the 7 questions to put forth to the Board of Aldermen and Alderwomen for approval. And then once it got to so that's 10 yeses. And then we got to the Board of Aldermen, Alderwomen, we got 9 more yeses. They unanimously approved it. And that's the makeup of the Board of Aldermen is 6 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and 1 unaffiliated. So, and that had bipartisan support. That was unanimous. So between the 2 commissions, there was 19 yes votes.
Okay, yeah. So I'm so used to in Derby over the years, it's always sort of infighting within parties or infighting within political or between political parties, but that's not the case here.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go.
This is one of the more atypical things that the city has ever done as far as charter revision. I mean, these changes that we're suggesting does not benefit one party over the other whatsoever.
And here we are moving on to question 2. This is the one that asks, shall Section 4 of the Charter of the City of Derby be amended to change the term of office for all elected officials from 2 years to 4 years in accordance with the recommendation of the Charter Revision Commission and the Board of Aldermen and Alderwomen? So right now, it's 2-year terms in Derby. This would make it 4 years. This is a pretty big change in city government. Why does this have the support of the Charter Revision Commission and the Board of Aldermen and Women?
Well, this is something when a new administration takes over, they're working under a 2-year term, and it's very difficult to get anything completed in 2 years. And in a recent history, I think there's maybe only been 1 or 2 one-term mayors in maybe the past 20 or 30 years. So typically, once a mayor is elected, they're getting 2 terms. So, and again, working under, for instance, the mayor working under a budget that he takes over under the previous administration for the first 6 months. So, and then a year later, he gets to work, or 6 months later, he proposes his own budget. The city.
Oh, you cut out, Rob. I lost your audio there, Rob. I'm still on, but you have disappeared. You've gone into the no man's land. So let's see if we can get Rob back. It's still
there's that internet instability that I was talking about.
There you go. Okay, you just came back. I mean, if you want, you could switch off your video. We could try it that way as well. I'm not going to have the ability to edit this, unfortunately. I don't have that type of budget. Yeah. But yeah, I'm sorry. You had trailed off there about 15 seconds ago, at least.
Okay, I'm not sure where I left off with the recording, but it's difficult to get anything done in 2 years. Once a project is started, it requires more than 2 years to see it through to fruition. And again, if a mayor is working under a budget of a previous administration for the first 6 months, the budget for his administration doesn't take effect until 6 months late into his first term. And then a year after that, he's seeking re-election. So he's theoretically, or all officials are theoretically seeking re-election, working under the budget for 1 year, under the current administration's budget for 1 year. So that's the idea behind moving it to 4 years. And also it's going to save taxpayer money on having the election. It costs a lot of money to host an election. So rather than doing it every 2 years, we can do it every 4.
And why was the decision? I mean, I guess one could, in terms of the mayor, I think one could argue that like the downtown redevelopment zone was, you could make an argument that it was stagnant for longer than it had to be, because every 2 years, basically, one candidate for mayor was trying to sabotage the other one. It just every 2 years, people try to unravel whatever plans or talk is happening within that redevelopment zone.
Right.
So I guess, and from one perspective, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Right.
So I
Exactly.
guess from that perspective, yeah, if you've had it for 2 years, all these years, and it hasn't worked, maybe four would. But why everybody else? Why not just the mayor? I was sort of surprised as this went along that it encompasses all Derby officials. Like, why is that?
Well, rather than just have one official, we decided, and again, it was unanimous between the two boards, the two commissions, to have all elected officials. That currently we have the only elected official that serves a 4-year term is the town clerk. So we're looking to change that just to make it consistent across the board and have all elected officials they're serving the same term.
And the other thing I wanted to point out, if you go to the Derby website, there is also explanatory text up there for these questions as well. So that's very exciting. And I guess we just did question 2, right? So that's that. Here are the questions, and you can get all the different uh, explanations there. And then question 3, I'm good. It has the question as well, so I don't have to switch back and forth. And this is an interesting one. Shall Section 10 of the Charter of the City of Derby be amended to designate the position of mayor as full-time in accordance with the recommendation of the Charter Revision Commission and the aldermen and women? So why a full-time mayor? What's good about that?
Well,
And how much is it going to cost us, Rob?
yeah, that's the unknown question. I mean, currently the charter does not specify whether the mayor is full-time or part-time. It doesn't specify either way. However, the salary structure for the mayor suggests that it's a part-time job. So I think it's in the $40,000 to $45,000 range per year, and it goes up with the number of years and terms that they serve. However, if a mayor is considered part-time, they're not going to call off their duty after serving maybe 20 or 30 hours. I mean, if there's something that's going on in the city that needs their attention, mayors are always, and have always been, as long as I've been in the city, working full-time as it is, 24/7, they're available to the community. So this is just to essentially end that age-old argument that the city of Derby has a part-time mayor.
Okay, and then I mean, I've been, at when Archie Moore's was Archie Moore's over the years with various city officials in the city of Derby, sort of talking in general. And one thing that they would say is it's hard to attract viable candidates for mayor or qualified candidates for mayor because the pay and the perception that it is part-time. Do you think, and there's been a lot of talk of this in the Zekin administration, like Alderman Sampson in particular, I think it was Alderman Sampson. I apologize if I'm getting this wrong, but there's this feeling that, well, you get what you pay for. If we sort of do low ball and don't bring in the cream of the crop, or we bring in somebody who goes, he's a good guy, or we know him a little bit. You have these full-time problems and sort of a part-time attitude. Is that, I don't know what my question is. Do you think this will widen the candidate base for mayor as well? And do you think ultimately, is it part of a bigger scheme to professionalize public service in Derby?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. And we had this discussion recently pertaining to the building official at the last Board of Alderman meeting. Yes, to answer your question in short, currently, or in recent past, the mayors have either been self-employed or they have the ability to leave their position, their full-time position, to serve as mayor, or their retired or near retirement age to serve as the mayor. So we're hoping that if we can A, make this 4 years, and B, make it full-time, we're going to be able to attract people that have more opportunity to spend more time and have a better professional background as well.
And I know in general, it's hard to get people to run for office nowadays because everyone's working 70 hours a week. And I know sometimes in Derby, you walk into and this might go back to having 4-year terms, I guess, an argument maybe for it. I felt like when I walk into the voting booth in Derby, sometimes I'm all inspired and ready to go. And I walk by all the candidates who are at the Irving School, on the corner there. And basically, you open the ballot and everybody on the ballot gets elected because you got 17 seats and you got 17 candidates. So that's an issue as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on both sides of the ball here. I was on the Democratic Town Committee for a number of years, and then I changed my party affiliation to unaffiliated, and I ran on the Republican ticket. So I've been a part of both.
Oh, your mic, we lost your sound there again, Rob. I don't know who your internet service is, but we're going to file a class action lawsuit. Can you hear me? You can still hear me, but I can no longer hear you. But your microphone is still on.
All right, I'm sorry, I'm back.
There you go. A little internet connectivity.
Yeah.
All right. You know what, though? You were saying it's hard to get. I was taking you off on a tangent anyway. So maybe that's God's way of saying, let's move to another one. Because I have to ask the big question here. If you go to full-time mayor, what's it going to cost? That's not decided at the charter revision level. When would that be decided? If this would cost us more, or the salary, or when's that going to be decided?
Well, should this this question pass and the mayor does become full time, it'll go to the Board of Aldermen to review the salary structure. So that'll be certainly done at a later date, and obviously it'll need to be done prior to next year's election.
Okay, share the screen right one more time here. Let's see, what do we have next? That was full-time mayor. Question 4. This is an interesting one too. Shall Section 16 of the Charter of the City of Derby be amended to update the duties of the treasurer in accordance with the same ones we've mentioned before? Then the explanatory text. This is sort of an interesting one here. And some letter writers, we've had 3 letters to the editor saying vote no on these. And we've had a letter to the editor from you and the 2 town political party chairmen saying vote yes. But this one says, if approved, the new language will clarify the responsibilities of the treasurer. But what is that? Because it's vague.
Currently, the charter is very vague. It doesn't really specify what the duties of the treasurer are. So what this change is essentially making the duties of the treasurer coincide with Connecticut general statutes. So we're not making any changes. We're just going with what the state of Connecticut has suggested the duties of the treasurer be for each municipality. So there's nothing nefarious here. There's nothing underhanded. We're just trying to get in line with Connecticut general statutes.
So would it be accurate if in the explanatory text under question 4 there, if it had said, if approved, the new language will clarify the responsibilities of the treasurer so that it matches Connecticut state statute? Is that?
I mean, that would be fair. Yeah. I mean, the explanatory text was not completed by the Charter Revision Commission. So yeah, I mean, that's fair to include that.
Okay. And then moving on to question 5 here. This is one I've heard. I mean, it's interesting. And this is sort of a political type of observation here, but you hold all these meetings. You guys meet for hours and hours for a series of months. You hold public hearings where you say to people, please tell us what you want to see changed. Do you have any suggestions? And the number of people that come out are small on every level of this thing. And maybe that's the pandemic, maybe because people don't like the Zoom, although I think public participation in government has increased thanks to Zoom and the fact we're all locked at homes. But I have heard, like Judy Shevchik last night was on this podcast, and she threw a little shade at, and she's the chairman of Derby Boat. She threw a little shade at the charter revision questions in general. And my theory is that this is probably a little bit of a hot button question. Okay, question 5. Sorry, yeah. Rob. Go ahead.
Keep going.
Shall section 26 to the charter of the city of Derby be amended to designate the board of aldermen / alderwomen as the superior body in the city, according to all the recommendations? Okay, so what's the motivation behind that?
The motivation behind that was to essentially make a determination as to who has the final say in the city of Derby. what body is going to have a final determination on a given subject. So, I understand that this could be a hot button question between the tax board and the Board of Aldermen, but it just makes sense to designate one of them as the superior body to make a final decision should there be a conflict between the two.
And just in terms of, I mean, I find this, I know the issue to some extent. I find it very hard to explain to people, to be quite honest with you. It's sort of a chicken and chicken and the egg type debate here. But from what I've seen, and I think it just happened recently, where the Board of Aldermen were talking about increasing a line item by a relatively small amount. But the hesitation was on the alderman's part that, well, the boat has the final say because they control the purse strings in the city of Derby. And I guess people that are made nervous by this question, does this take away all power? Does this mean the Board of Aldermen can essentially spend any money they want in the city of Derby?
Not necessarily. I mean, we can't spend the money if it's not there. So, I mean, we can make recommendations and make determinations, but if the money's not there, then we're certainly not going to be able to authorize anything.
Okay. And then my other screen turned off here. We'll come back to that in a second because I believe it's mentioned again. A boat comes up again. Let's see. So that was okay. And then you talk about, and you sort of hit this one. The mayor gets more involved in the process because it's going to be written in the charter, which is question 6. Shall section 28 of the Charter of Derby be amended to require the mayor to submit an annual budget to the Board of Apportionment and Taxation by March 1st, in accordance with the recommendations. And I guess just in the explanatory text, if approved, this language will modify the annual budget process to include the mayor in the process and require the mayor to submit an annual budget to the Board of Apportionment and Taxation, which body, the boat, shall continue to have the final decision on the approval of the budget. Does that explain? I mean, they have the final decision of the budget, but the aldermen, women are the superior body. That's a little confusing to me.
Yeah, well, but the Board of Aldermen wouldn't have any say over the budget. That's going to remain with the tax board. And again, having the mayor's eyes on it prior to the going to the tax board is hopefully going to save some time. So he can make recommendations to Parks and Rec or Public Works and say, all right, I need you to come back with a few cuts before we present this to the tax board. And that would save the tax board from having to have that conversation. But yeah, the tax board is going to make the final decision as far as the budget is concerned. And the Board of Aldermen being the superior body wouldn't override that. Their suggestions would be made to the tax board, knowing that there's money set aside, or at least with the understanding that there's money set aside for a particular item that we would be looking to pass.
Okay. And then I should also point out, I mean, one of the members of the Charter Revision Commission is Sam Palastro. He's the head of the Derby Republican Town Committee, or at least last I heard. I believe that's still true. Sometimes they change out. And he's a member of the tax board. He's been on the tax board for like 100 years at this point. And he voted in favor of this question too, right? He had some questions about it. And
yeah, correct. I mean, Sam has been on the Charter Revision Commission, and this was, obviously one of the items that we discussed at length, and he was in favor of it.
Okay, and the last question, I mean, this sounds relatively minor, but shall Section 55 of the Charter be amended to allow certain members of the Board of Assessment Appeals to designate an alternate to act in their stead in accordance with the recommendation of what's happening there with the Board of Tax Assessment Appeals? People aren't showing up to meetings or something, or?
Well, occasionally there's a conflict with schedules. So we have decided that we would like to look at having an alternate for the various members of the assessment appeals. Currently, as it's set up, it's the chair of the tax board, the president of the Board of Aldermen, and the treasurer. The difference between the tax board and the Board of Aldermen versus the treasurer is there's alternates on that board. So there's 10 tax board members and there's 9 aldermen. So if the president is unable to fulfill those duties on a given night, then we can designate one of the other 8 aldermen. And if a tax board chair is unable to fulfill those requirements on any given night, there's 9 other alternates that they can choose from. However, the treasurer is a single position, so we did not include them as an alternate because he could or she could essentially appoint anybody to sit in their seat. So there is really no alternate for the treasurer, so that's why we're not looking to add an alternate for the treasurer position.
Okay, that is a very inside baseball question. I got to admit, I'm not sure if I'm following all that, but that's charter revision. I mean, I should go back and do some more research. But I guess, what do you think now, Rob? Because there is some grumbling in the community. I mean, and it must be so hard to get the word out about something like this. Where do you think the vote's going to go? And is there anything you want to say to people before November 3rd? And again, it's not like this is, I remember the last charter revision, there was one question on there that would take away the need to vote, unanimous vote from the Board of Aldermen on dual office holding. And that one was a little like, well, it was the aldermen benefiting themselves to some extent, one could possibly assume. But this one doesn't, it was these meetings they were what they were. They just it went through the process. So what do you want to say to people?
I'd like to let everybody know that, we worked very long hours. We did a lot of research. We discussed, we worked collaboratively. And again, it was a bipartisan effort here. And it was unanimous between 10 commission members and 9 Board of Aldermen members. So it's not something that we're looking to just throw against the wall to see if it sticks. We think that these are good recommendations, and it's understandable that a couple of these questions might be questionable, that may not pass. However, I think the majority of them will, and understanding and being a part of the process on both the commission and the Board of Aldermen, Alderwomen, I was able to see both sides of it. So I'm confident that the majority of these questions are going to pass.
Okay, that's interesting to hear. So, and then from what I understand, this process may start up again after November 3rd at some point.
Yeah, because we got a late start due to COVID, and the commission was put together in January or February, and then COVID struck in March. So we didn't actually start meeting until May. And there's a number of items that were brought to us that we had to table until the next cycle because we didn't have enough time to do the research and give it the amount of time that it deserves to discuss and to research to make a decision. So we are going to ask the Board of Aldermen to reappoint this Charter Revision Commission and begin the process again and tackle some of those tougher issues, knowing that we'll have more time in the next cycle.
All right, sir. I mean, as a Derby resident, I want to thank you for your public service. It's a thankless job. Being on a Charter Revision Commission definitely isn't easy. So thank you very much, and thank you for coming on and agreeing to do this again.
Of course, no problem. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, everybody. This is Eugene Driscoll on behalf of Alderman Rob Hyder of Derby. November 3rd is Election Day. Go to valleyindy.org. I've got all sorts of links up there to find out if you're registered, to find out what your polling location is. If you haven't handed in your absentee ballot at this point, don't mail it. Walk to Derby City Hall, put it right in the drop box outside City Hall on the Minerva Street side. So that's that. Thanks a lot, Rob.
All right. Have a great night.